Welcome back, everyone, here on The Sweat with Tim Finnegan, our UFC analyst and, nay, expert. All right, Madam Kaufman, great to be with you. Tim, how are you, man?
I'm hanging in there. How about you?
Good. We're going to do a little UFC chase or fade, obviously. Want to know how you feel about the odds on the DK Sportsbook and DFS, depending on, obviously, which direction we go. And let's dive on in with this first one. Start with the first of three middleweight bouts that we have coming up featured on the main card. Now, you have Tom BREESE, who is minus 250, a favorite against Antonio Arroyo. Okay, now BREESE said earlier this week that he is just getting warmed up, loves what he's doing, he's entering his prime years. What direction you going?
So it sounds like this fight's going to be a stand-up battle. Or Arroyo says he wants to make this fight exciting because he wants to keep his job. And BREESE said that he wants to stand and try to punch a hole through him. So it really looks like this fight is going to be on the feet. They're going to be throwing bombs at each other. BREESE, 4 of his 5 UFC wins are by KO or TKO. So it doesn't sound like this fight's going to go the distance. Like if you look at the DraftKings Sportsbook betting odds, it's minus 177 to not go to the distance. And BREESE by KO or TKO is plus 165 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So I think that is probably a pretty good bet that you can consider.
All right, let's take a look at another middleweight here, and we have got GREGORY RODRIGUES, who is a slight underdog, plus 120 on the DK Sportsbook against DUSKO TODOROVIC, which this is kind of interesting, right? Because you've got, again, Rodriguez as a slight dog, but then again, Todorovic is coming off his first UFC loss. So which way are you going to lean?
So Rodriguez is taking this fight on short notice, so that's always a good thing for the opponent, Todorovic in this case. Both these fighters throw a lot of striking volume. Like, Todorovic is really active. He's landing over 7 significant strikes per minute. That's, like, really, really high volume. And the high volume gives him fantasy upside because he's very active. He scored as high as 120 DraftKings fantasy points in DFS contests. So I'd look at Todorovic, especially because he's fighting his opponent on short notice.
Okay, we have one more middleweight, as alluded to. Again, 3 in total that we're looking at in the main card. And this one here, a minus 150 favorite, which is Roman Dolidze, and matching up with Laureano Strapoli. Now, I don't know. Is this one more difficult than the names themselves to predict? Which way are you going to go?
So Strapoli, I hope I said his name right. He has low fantasy scoring because he doesn't really get a lot of points through grappling. He doesn't get a lot of takedowns or control time. And he has a negative strikes landed to absorb ratio. So that's always a red flag to me. So if he's taking more strikes than he's landing and he doesn't get a lot of fantasy points for grappling, like I really don't see any appeal with him in DraftKings DFS contests. So I'd go with Tolarski. These names are unbelievable, man. Like,
aren't they? They don't get any easier right here either with our next questions. We go to the welterweight division, and that is about between a 34-year-old, and that is Santiago Ponzinibbio, and I hope I said that correctly, Santiago Ponzinibbio, and the undefeated Miguel BAEZA. Okay, now the line's about even. What should we make of this fight?
So Ponzinibbio has been finished 3 times by strikes in his career, and BAEZA has popped. Most of his wins are by knockout or TKO. BAEZA by KO or TKO is plus 165 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So I'm just looking at those betting odds, and I think that if you're going to make a play on this fight, that would be it. BAEZA by KO or TKO at plus 165.
Okay, now let's go heavyweight division and the co-main event. Now, on the one hand, you have the very easy to say Walt Harris. On the other, you have Marcin Tybura, who now Harris hasn't won since 2019. It's been a couple of years, obviously, and plus 140 underdog here for this one. Do you think he has any shot to get back on track as he nears retirement?
I do. So Walt Harris had a lot of tragedy in his personal life recently, and his last 2 losses are to very strong competition, Alistair Overeem and Alexander Volkov. Like, those are 2 tough opponents. All of Harris's career wins are by knockout. Like, every single one of them. All of his UFC wins, all of his pre-UFC wins are all by knockout. And Tybura has been knocked out 3 times in his UFC career. So Harris is a potential option at 7,500 in DraftKings DFS contest because he has a chance for a knockout. And he's plus 250 on DraftKings Sportsbook to win by KO or TKO. So I would look at Harris if you're looking for a cheaper DFS play, 7,500.
Let's go to the main event, and that is the heavyweight battle between a minus 130 favorite, which is Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and matching up with Augusto Sakai. Now, both coming off tough losses. Who do you expect to be in the win column at the end of this thing?
So Rozenstruik is a really patient counter fighter. Like, he's got good technical kickboxing, but he can be kind of boring at times. Like his last fight against Cyril Gane, he kind of put everybody to sleep. He was just waiting to counter, but he didn't have an opening to counter, so it was just like one giant stall fest. So he can have low volume at times, which limits his DFS upside. But on the flip side, he also has a lot of power, so he can finish at any moment. And because he has a lot of power, that also gives him upside in DFS contests because if he gets a quick knockout, he can score over 100 DraftKings fantasy points. So neither fighter really gets takedowns. So this looks like it's going to be a stand-up fight. And if it's a stand-up fight, I'd favor Rozenstruik because he's a very good kickboxer. So I would look at him.
Far and away the easiest question that I could ask you, which is your favorite DFS play, fighter, whomever you're looking at here for UFC Fight Night.
So DUSKO TODOROVIC, he's 8,600. Like we talked about before, his opponent is taking this fight on short notice. I think it's like 2 weeks notice. So he's going to have more time to prepare for this fight. And he has such high volume. He's landing about 7.5 significant strikes per minute. That's excellent, excellent volume. So that volume can fuel fantasy scoring. Like he scored as much as 120 DraftKings fantasy points. So the combination of him fighting his opponent on short notice and his volume makes him appealing for me at 8,600. So I'd look at him.